Hey guys, today we're going to do another video lesson. We're starting Unit 2. Unit 2 starts out on 2.1, Order of Operations. Now remember, when you're filling out your notes, you're going to write down everything that I write down. And if you aren't writing down what I'm writing down when I do a note check, I'm not going to initial off and you're not going to be able to move on and have free time at the end of class. So please make sure you're following along and writing down everything that I write down. The first thing I want you to do is make sure that you're putting in the topic, the class, the date, and your name, not my name, your name. 2.1, the topic is order of operations, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, order of operations are rules to follow when simplifying an expression that contains multiple operations. Now, we've talked about operations before, but what are operations? If you can't really remember, operations are the things that we do, like multiplying, subtracting, adding, dividing, things like that. Those are all operations. An expression and an equation are two different things. So an expression is basically a math problem with no equal sign. An equation has an equal sign. No equal sign. Whenever you're simplifying or evaluating an expression, you have to do it in a very specific order. If you don't follow that order, you will not get the right answer. You'll get a different answer. So one of the ways that we try to follow order of operations is we use something called PEMDAS. If you have a hard time remembering it, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So PEMDAS lets you know what order to go in. Everything we do, we're going to always go from left to right. Every time we do something, left to right. The most important thing. The P in PEMDAS stands for parentheses. Now, even though it says parentheses only, what parentheses refers to is grouping. So any grouping that happens in a problem, we deal with first. If there's parentheses, we deal with what's inside the parentheses first. If it's any sort of grouping. So when I say that, what I mean is parentheses, absolute value brackets, brackets like this. Anything that groups the problem is what you're going to deal with first. Now the E stands for exponents. So after you finish all simplifying or evaluating everything in parentheses first, then you're going to move on to exponents. Exponents also, the E also stands for exponents and anything with a radical. And we'll talk about what that means in a little while. The M/D, now the reason it says M/D and not just M by itself and then D is because the next thing, after we've finished evaluating parentheses and the exponents, we figure out if we do multiplication and division next. Now the reason there's a slash is because we go from left to right, and whichever operation comes first, multiplication or division, whatever comes first left to right is what we're going to do. So if division comes first left to right, then we handle division first. This is extremely important. It's left to right. So it's multiplication, whichever comes first, left to right. Now the same thing goes. So after we finish parentheses, exponents, multiplication, and division, the next thing that we're going to do is addition and subtraction. So if we're dealing with addition and subtraction next, the slash means the same thing. After we finish everything else in PEMDAS, we're going to do addition and subtraction operations, and it's going to be whichever operation comes first, left to right. So that's why it says slash again. And now this might not make a whole lot of sense now, but once we start practicing problems, you're going to see where this comes in. So whichever comes first, left to right. Now remember, everything I'm writing down, you need to be writing down. If you have questions, you can pause the video and send me a message on Classcraft. Or you can raise your hand, or you can, but more than likely the easiest thing to do is going to be to message me on Classcraft, and I can help you out immediately. Alright, now that we've talked about what PEMDAS actually means, let's put it into practice when we evaluate. So I want you to do is go to number 1. Now in number 1, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think PEMDAS. So parentheses first. I need to look from left to right. So left to right, do I see any parentheses? Yes, I do. Your work needs to look exactly like my work. If you're not showing every step that I'm showing, you're not going to get credit for your notes. We're only going to show one operation per step. That's why their boxes are so big. So what we do is we're just going to write down whatever operations and parts of the problem that we're not using yet. So right now, we're not using 4 minus 1 because we need to deal with what's in this parentheses first. So I see this parentheses, that's what I'm going to evaluate first. So 6 minus 5 is 1. By evaluating that, I can just go ahead and get rid of that step. Now I'm going to go, are there any exponents? Nope, no exponents. Is there any multiplication or division? Nope. Is there addition and subtraction? There is, so I'm going to go left to right, whichever comes first. This is important, left to right. So I start here and I go 4 minus 1. 4 minus 1 is 3. Minus 1, one operation at a time. 3 minus 1 is 2. Your work needs to look just like mine, step by step. Now, what I want you to do is go to number 2. The first thing I'm going to do is parentheses. Do I see parentheses left to right? I sure do, so I'm going to deal with everything in parentheses first. So 5 plus 4, when you go inside parentheses, if you have more than one operation, you're going to follow PEMDAS inside the parentheses as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is, okay, do I have the parentheses? Are there any exponents in here? Nope. There's no multiplication in here, there's no division in here, but there is addition and subtraction. So I'm going to do addition and subtraction left to right inside the parentheses. 5 plus 4, remember left to right, is 9 minus 3 divided by 6. I still need to get rid of these parentheses because I've only done half of that operation. 9 minus 3 is 6 divided by 6. Okay, now that I've done everything and gotten rid of the parentheses, I can move on. Is there multiplication and division? There sure is, left to right. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Box in your answer, and you're done. Now, what happens if you have 2 sets of parentheses? Remember, these parentheses mean multiply. So what we're going to do is start out with PEMDAS parentheses. Do I have any parentheses? What's first? This is first. 41 minus 9. 41 minus 9 is 32. So I'm going to write 32. I've gotten rid of those parentheses. Divided by 4 times negative 2. I'm only doing one operation per step. Your work should look just like mine. If you're doing more than one operation per step, I'm going to count points off. Now, remember, left to right. There's no exponents. We've gotten rid of the parentheses, so now it's multiplication slash division. Left to right. It's going to be tempting for you to want to do this first, but you're not. You're going to do, remember, we're going to do left to right, whichever comes first. That 32 divided by 4 comes first, left to right. So 32 divided by 4 is 8 times negative 2. If you did this first, 4 times negative 2, you would have gotten negative 8. 32 divided by negative 8, which is not going to give you the same answer. So make sure that you're following the order of operations left to right. Now, 8 divided by 2, 8 multiplied by negative 2, it gives you negative 16. You're going to box that in, and you're done. I want you to star this problem. This problem is really important. You're going to want to come back to this problem if you need help and need to go over anything else. I want you to circle number 4 and move on to number 5. Now, looking at number 5, the first thing I'm thinking about is PEMDAS. I need to figure out, all right, parentheses. Are there parentheses? There sure are. There's parentheses inside of parentheses. Remember what I said. Inside parentheses, PEMDAS starts over again to finish evaluating. So if there's parentheses in our parentheses, that's the first operation we're going to deal with. So 13, we're going to keep it in that big part in parentheses. 6 minus 5, we're going to deal with that first, is 1. Right? Divided by 4. Now I still have those parentheses left over from the 6 minus 5 and 13. So I'm going to do 13 minus 1 is 12. Divided by 4. Now I could go on to the next step. There's no exponents. There's no multiplication, but there is division. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. Box in your answer and you're done. Now I want you to circle number 6. Now if you flip over to the back page, I want you to look at number 7. Number 7, remember, we've got PEMDAS first. We're going to be following parentheses first. So the first thing I see is I've got parentheses, and inside these parentheses I've got other operations. So PEMDAS starts over. There's no more parentheses inside these parentheses, but there is an exponent. So 3, we're going to need to deal with that. So 3 squared is 9. 3 squared is 9. Times 2. Now just a refresher, remember that 3 squared really means 3 times 3. And 3 times 3 is 9. Divided by 3. Now I can deal with this. So 9 times 2 is 18. That gets rid of my parentheses, divided by 3. Alright, now I've gotten rid of my parentheses. I don't have any more exponents. Multiplication and division's next, left to right. I have got division. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 6 is my final answer. I want you to circle number 8. Alright, so look at number 9. The first thing we're going to do is order of operations. Do I see parentheses? I do, so I need to deal with that first. So 19 minus 2 times 4. We're going to do order of operations inside the parentheses. We're going to start over again. I don't have any more parentheses or exponents. I do have multiplication. So 19 minus 2 times 4, which is 8. Now I just need to get rid of my parentheses. 19 minus 8 is 11. Now remember, this just means multiply. Now that I've gotten rid of my parentheses, because that's what that means, I need to evaluate my exponents next, because that's what the E stands for. 2 to the 3rd power is really 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times itself 3 different times, which gives me 8. So 8 times 11. Now I'm going to do multiplication and division, whichever comes left to right. 8 times 11 is 88. That's my final answer. I'm going to box it in. I want you to circle number 10 and move on to number 11. Remember, left to right, parentheses first. Now, parentheses. This negative 6 in parentheses, but there's no other operation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write that negative 6 again without the parentheses. So I know that I've got evaluated that part. Make sure you bring down the negative. Don't lose your negatives. I'm just going to write everything out again. So now that I've dealt with parentheses, I need to look and see if there's any exponents. There aren't any exponents, so now I'm going to do multiplication / division left to right, whichever comes first. There's no multiplication or division here, but there is right here. 6 times 10 is 60. So I've done my multiplication and division. Now I'm going to do addition and subtraction left to right, whichever comes first. Remember, it's important, whichever comes first, left to right. In this case, left to right, negative 6 minus 7, which is subtraction, comes first. We need to do that first. Negative 6, 7 is negative 13 plus 60. Notice we didn't do the 7 plus 60 first. We did left to right, negative 6 minus 7 first. The order matters. So order matters. If you're not following the correct order, you're not going to get the right answer. Now we can do negative 13 plus 60. Left. Make sure you're using your calculators for this stuff. Negative 13 plus 60 is positive 47. Box your answer in. Now I want you to circle number 12. And let's look at number 13. Now number 13. We've got a lot of parentheses here. So parentheses first. Remember, we evaluate what's inside the parentheses first. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. We do it left to right. It's not 3 minus 1, it's 1 minus 3, which gives me negative 2. We leave that. Now we know that everything inside these parentheses is raised to this power 2, so we leave that there. Plus, now inside these parentheses, there's an exponent, so we need to deal with that first. Remember, anything to the third power means that number multiplied by itself 3 times. So, 4 times 4 times 4, or 4 to the third, gives me 64. You use your calculator for that. So 64 minus 15. I still need to make sure I get rid of my parentheses first. So I'm just going to come over here and finish the operation here. Now 64 minus 15 is 49. Now that I've gotten rid of those parentheses, I need to deal with this exponent over here. So negative 2 squared means negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2, if you remember from the last unit, is going to be a positive 4. So I've got 4 plus 49. Now I go left to right, adding and subtracting because there's no more operations left for me to do. 4 plus 49 is 53. Box your answer in, and you're done. I want you to circle number 14. And come down to number 15. Now, this one's crazy looking. It's a fraction. It's ugly, and that's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to use PEMDAS in the numerator, and then PEMDAS again in the denominator. You might need a little more space than we have right here. And that's okay. These problems take a little more time. So, we're going to deal with our numerator first. If I look at my numerator, I need to follow order of operations. There's no parentheses here, but there is an exponent. So negative 7 times, now 2 to the 4th is going to mean 2 times itself 4 times. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 2 to the 4th power gives me 16. So it's going to be negative 7 times 16 all over 18 minus 12 divided by 3. Now this minus negative 2, remember what happens when we subtract a negative, it's really going to be plus 2. Now, I need to finish simplifying my numerator and then I can move on to my denominator. Remember, we're following order of operations on the numerator first. So we haven't touched our denominator first. So you PEMDAS the numerator, PEMDAS the denominator, and then you can finish solving. So, negative 7 times 16 should be, you're not going to deal with that positive 2 yet, or that addition of 2, because we're only dealing with the numerator, and that 2 is not part of the numerator. Now, negative 7 times 6 is negative 112. If you use your calculator, you know this. And now all I'm doing is rewriting the denominator the way it was so that I can finish simplifying. I finished simplifying the numerator of this fraction, so now I'm going to do the denominator. So negative 112 over, PEMDAS starts over on the denominator, 18 minus, I don't have any parentheses, I don't have any exponents, I don't have any multiplication, but I do have division. So we're going to do 18 minus 12 divided by 3 is 4, and then plus 2 off to the side. Go to the next step. So negative 112 all over. Now I can do 18 minus 4 because subtraction's next. 18 minus 4 is 14 plus 2. Now remember, this negative 112 over 14 is really just division. You need to simplify that fraction before you try and add anything. It's going to make your life a lot easier. If you put 112 in your calculator, negative 112 in your calculator, and divide it by 14, you get negative 8. Because remember, a negative number divided by a positive number is a negative number. So then you're left with negative 8 plus 2. The reason it's important to simplify fractions first is when we add things like fractions, we have to have a common denominator, right? If we had just done this and tried to do it this way, we would have needed to make this a common denominator. That's a lot of work. Whereas if we had just simplified it, we figured out it's just negative 8 plus 2. So negative 8 plus 2, make sure you're using your calculators. Negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. Box your answer in. I want you to circle number 16. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of this, what I want you to do is complete and show all your work for all the circled problems. When you're done doing the circled problems, you're going to message me on Classcraft that you're done so I can check your work, and I'm going to initial off and make sure that you're doing them correctly before you move on. If you need any help, remember you can review the video, message me on Classcraft, and ask for help. If you have any questions, ask me.